Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. My name is Joe and this is the news for Saturday, the 8th of February. Manchester United last night winning that game again. I say that game, was it even a game? It happened, we won, we're through to the next round of the FA Cup. But there's lots to talk about because post-match, Ruben Amorim has answered a few crucial questions about this Manchester United side. He's spoken about Rasmus Hojlund's struggles, he's spoken about Garnacho's form, and crucially, he's spoken about Patrick Dorgu's positioning and his performance as well. So we're going to get into all of that. Get your thoughts in the comments and hit subscribe if you haven't already. Now, United are the first team through to the 5th round of the FA Cup. It's what we do. We haven't lost in the competition in over 600 days. Pretty good if you ask me. But I mean, the dust has settled a little bit. It is the next morning, but I do still feel like last night was almost had more negatives than positives despite winning and going through to the next round. Amorim, of course, spoke about a lot of these things in the post-match press conference. The journalists, of course, saw what we did. We're asking about some of the strange intricacies and problems with that game. We're going to get through all of that. Let's start with Patrick Dorgu, though, because the excitement for his debut was there. It was very good to see him playing. Unusually, though, or what felt unusually to a lot of us watching, he played on that right-hand side, meaning that Dalot stayed over on the left in a position that he seems to have struggled in since he got moved over there. Dalot, of course, a right-back by trade. Dorgu, theoretically, a left-back by trade. However, they were both on the opposite sides. And Ruben Amorim, I'll get to his direct quotes from this rather than me reading it out. Let's hear from Ruben Amorim and his thoughts on why Patrick Dorgu played where he did.
No, was not that. I was giving a lot of information because if you see Leicester building up, sometimes the left foot, the left defender, the fullback is the more up, building up. So we make like one pressure to one side, and then they change completely for this game, and we have to manage to change everything. So I was trying to help Dorgu to manage the game, and he has like 3 trainings. So it was really hard for him, but was not like that. Help us a lot, the communication there, but was not that the idea.
More of Dorgu on the right-hand side?
Yes. Again, if you going to see the history of Dorgu in the last team, he played a lot of games also on the right, and we have to have wingers that can play both sides, like Dalot. So I think it's a really good important thing, because sometimes you need the left foot on the right side to come inside to connect in a different way, and sometimes you need the right-footed to connect and to cross more balls. So it's like that.
Friend of the channel, Carl Anker, there asking that question about whether he's played on the right-hand side so that Amorim could communicate with him more easily. So they were basically playing on the same side of the pitch as Amorim was coaching from. That didn't seem to be the reason why he did it. And it was a little bit surprising. But as he mentions there, if you actually look at the numbers, he's played a fair number of games at right wing this season, Dorgu. Not just right back, but right wing, and going down that right-hand side on his right foot is something that we saw, which was nice to see. Him being a left-footed player, willing to go outside on his right foot is good. However, there is always going to be that thing of whenever you receive the ball on your, if he's on the right-hand side and he's left-footed, his instinct is to go that way, which is his left side. That's where our own goal is. You can't really open up and go down the line as comfortably as you can if you've got your strong foot touching the touchline. That is going to be a bit of an issue, but obviously it's what Amorim wants. He could have played Dalot there and decided not to. Will that be a mistake? Will he change his mind as time goes on? What he said there, basically, he wants to play him on the right, and he's going to keep playing him on the right, certainly for now. Maybe that indicates that another wing-back will be signed over on the left-hand side, or maybe he's happy with Dalot. I would be a little bit surprised if he's completely comfortable with Dalot out there, because we're not really seeing much output in terms of goals and assists, although I did think Dalot was a little bit more solid defensively against Leicester. It's still one of those queries and questions that maybe we're just going to have to see it unfold. Maybe we're going to have to learn with Ruben Amorim about where Patrick Dorgu's best position is. Who knows? Maybe even Dorgu said, I'd rather play at the right. We don't know what happened behind the scenes, but at least there's a reason for it. He said he's played there before. If you look at his previous matches, that's where he's been playing. So I guess it kind of makes sense. However, and Ronaldo mentioned this during the watch-along last night, that at times you struggle to get that kind of fluidity of build-up when you have 2 kind of inverted fullbacks and then 2 inverted number 10s in front of them. you want to keep the width, but everyone instinctively wants to cut inside onto their strong foot. How do we keep the width? How do we control the game when you've got people overlapping, but then onto their weak foot? That's going to be a bit of an issue, isn't it? Garnacho managed to kind of work his way around that, and we'll talk a bit about Garnacho a little bit later, but he managed to keep that width and use his left foot and put a few balls across the box, which was good to see. But I guess it kind of clears up the Dorgu thing, although in a way it doesn't really help because there's no extra kind of idea behind it. It is just we think he's better on the right. So anyone who thought Dorgu should be playing on the left probably isn't going to be convinced by Amorim just saying, yeah, he's played right back before, I played him there again. It wasn't something, it would almost make more sense if it was to communicate with him and then put him on the left-hand side later on. But we'll have to wait and see. Unfortunately, no one at Man United seems to be particularly in great form at the minute, and Dorgu coming in looking sharp in the first 45 minutes, I guess, is still a positive. In terms of negatives then, Ruben Amorim was asked again about Rasmus Hojlund, and it was quite interesting what he said about Hojlund because we spoke before on the channel that he's not particularly critical of players, especially immediately post-match. He doesn't like to come out and slag players off, individually, but he did have a little bit of constructive criticism for Rasmus Hojlund surrounding his performance, especially off the ball. Here's what he said.
I think it's a good thing. I will not say one word bad about this type of behavior. He needs to understand that sometimes he has to do a job without touching the ball. He cannot get so frustrated because in the next play maybe he will have a situation near the goal, so he has to be calm. But he's a character, and if you know so many players from that kind of character that he has from that country, they always want more. They want to score. They feel the critics. So it's a good thing, but he will improve. And a striker needs a very good team to deliver very good balls for him, and we are not helping our strikers.
So there you can see him talking about Hojlund off the ball. And it's a frustrating sight watching Rasmus Hojlund at the minute, isn't it? He doesn't seem to know what to do, basically, at all. Off the ball, he's struggling and he's spending a lot of time fighting his centre-back. And you could see last night, one positive at least, the little flick that he had that sort of rebounded back for Xerxes' goal. I think that was probably going in. It was a nice position. He actually had a shot inside the box for once and it was immediately blocked, but at least it led to a goal, him peeling off his defender and actually finding some space. But we're in a bit of a tricky situation. Like, Xerxes gets the goal, but it's that kind of Xerxes special where half of the goal is completely open for him. I'm glad he's in there. I'm glad he's poaching and knocking that in. But I think half of or more than half the goals that Xerxes scored so far for United have basically been tap-ins into open goals. However, you can't criticise a player for scoring, and I think that is something that Rasmus needs, even if it is just a tap-in, even if it is just a yard out and the ball hits him. Look at their goal in the game last night. Just Dickard over Reed, he's literally just nodding it in from 3 yards out into an empty net. Hojlund needs something like that. And what's good about this, you see there, he needs to understand that sometimes he needs to do a job without touching the ball. He can't be frustrated because in the next play he will have a situation near the goal, so he has to be calm. I feel like he's being coached. I feel like if he's saying that to us as the public, he's going to be saying similar and probably more detailed things to Rasmus Hojlund in person and in training. Hopefully it's not just a case of, Rasmus is struggling, so we'll kind of leave him out to dry. He's actually going to tell him what to do and how to improve, and hopefully it works, because we need to hope that it works. I think it's 14 games that Rasmus Hojlund hasn't scored in now, and that can't really carry on forever, can it? It has to change at some point. Back onto a positive then. Garnacho came on, won the man of the match in the game yesterday. Was very positive, front foot, driving at his defender like he always used to. And it felt like we were watching a bit more of a vintage Garnacho, to me at least. And not just because, he was getting and driving at the box, but because every time he got the ball, it felt like something might happen. And unfortunately, the one time he had a great chance at the near post and he had Ahmad and Hojlund at the back post, he decides to go near post. But outside of that, he actually looked a lot more selfless. He was going down the line, squaring it back 3 or 4 times. He had the ball in that area where he got the assist against Liverpool for the Ahmad goal, pulling the ball back, 18-yard box, penalty spot, whipping the ball and drilling it across the ground into those dangerous areas. And that's clearly something that Amorim is coaching him and telling him to do, because he didn't used to do it. He used to cut inside almost every time. Now he's dropping the shoulder, going down the line and pulling it back, and we're actually seeing a consistent and actually dangerous Alejandro Garnacho again, after he had that kind of December where it felt like everything was against him. Last couple of weeks, he's actually been more like the sort of player I think Ruben Amorim wants. And I think that's big. And obviously Amorim spoke about Garnacho as well after the game and basically said the same things I've just said. Let's hear him.
That is not important. We want players like Garnacho. He's really important. He changed the game today, run with the runs behind. Of course, you can feel it that the opponent was getting tired, just with a lot of difficulties, not in the first half, but in the second half to stop Garnacho in the 1-against-1. So we are very happy with him, and I think he helped a lot to change the game today.
And he's right. He was dangerous. He did go after those 1v1s, and maybe it was against tired legs, and eventually we'll see, hopefully, Garnacho being able to do that against fresh opponents who, the spaces aren't quite there and he can still find a way to do it. But there were a few positives in a sea of negatives, and I've almost tried to focus on the positives in this video because we know what the negatives were. They were the same as they were last week, they were the same as they were last month. Basically, a lot of the negatives were the same as they were last season. The players don't look like they can match their opposition physically. They look uncoached, they look like they don't know what to do when they're on the ball, and that pervades across seasons and managers and decades at this point. Man United, in big moments, look like we don't know what to do. So let's focus on the things where we did look a bit more like we know what to do. Dorgu looked like he knew what to do in certain areas. Garnacho as well. Xerxes, when he came on, played very well. So there were a few positives. We limited Leicester to only 3 shots on goal. That's not too bad. But United need to look much more dangerous going forward if we're going to have a chance of winning the FA Cup. And I'm pretty sure Ruben Amorim knows that himself. Thank you very much for joining us. Hit subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Get your thoughts in. Now the dust settled, now we've had a night to sleep on it, does the win kind of go above how bad that performance was in our memories? Can we focus on the positives? If not, let me know in the comments. But we've learned a little bit at least where Patrick Dorgu is going to be playing going forward. Thank you very much for joining me. This has been the news on Saturday the 8th of February. We'll see you in a bit.